What's up, everyone? Derek Peterson with Stakeholder here. College football is officially back, and we have finally our first AP top 25 of this season. To round up the top 5, Ohio State at 1, Oregon at 2, Georgia 3, Notre Dame at 4, and Texas rounds off the top 5. But for us, the interesting part isn't necessarily who is number 1 today, but where the market could be wrong tomorrow. Because on Stakeholder, we're trying to identify teams whose perceptions and ultimately their AP ranking could look very different a few weeks from now, and probably will. So let's go through a few things that jumped out from the first poll, and then I'll give you some teams I'm watching heading into week 1. Okay, who's watching Ohio State week 1? I hate to start here. I myself am more of an underdog fan, so I hate to do it, but let's dive in and talk Ohio State a little bit. Starting off at number 1 with 40 of 69 first place votes. So, obviously there's a pretty clear consensus. I myself not in agreement. I really think it's a snub to Indiana, but we'll get to that later. But from the market perspective, there's a better question here. When you're already number 1, what's the upside? So Ohio State can't move any higher. Everyone already expects them to be king of the hill. However, when you look at the APY on Stakeholder, you can see there's still room for upside price action. For top tier teams, blue chip teams, anything above 4% APY is really a nice buy. It's a nice buy side opportunity. But to that end, let's take a further look down the road. We'll slide it over to Indiana for a second here. Okay. Here is a hill I will gladly defend today. Indiana is the most interesting team in the top 10, bar none. And by the way, here's a crazy data point in the poll. Indiana is ranked 6th, but received 8 first place votes. That's more first place votes than Notre Dame, which is ranked 4th. Make that make sense. Like, seriously. In my opinion, that tells you there's some serious disagreement amongst the voters. And that kind of disagreement is exactly what makes Stakeholder interesting. If Indiana comes out and looks anything like last year's team, there's already evidence that a portion of the AP electorate is willing to put them at number 1. So Indiana at 6 is absolutely a team I'm watching. Indiana at 6 is absolutely a team I'm buying. Here's why. Curt Cignetti and last year's national championship Hoosiers were successful not because of Mendoza, not because of certain key players, but because leadership and culture have a tipping point. That tipping point came together for a perfect season. And again, in my opinion, until proven otherwise, they deserve to wear that crown at number 1 and not number 6. By the way, another fun fact of the day, token holders on Stakeholder since the point of last season are up 155%. So if you would have put $100 on Indiana last year on Stakeholder, your position would be $254 today. That's 155% upside, but you're also collecting 7% rewards. That's insane. Okay, let's put a pin in this and scoot on to topic number 3. Okay, topic number 3. Look how tight number 3 through 5 is. Look, another thing worth watching is how little separation there actually is between Georgia, Notre Dame, and Texas. I mean, just look at the vote totals. Like 15 to 30 votes separates this group. And it's just going to make this whole 3 through 7 range in the rankings absolutely one of the most interesting portions of the market this season. I mean, one big performance from any of these teams could reshuffle this entire group. You just got to keep a pulse on this. All right. It's time for Stakeholder Market Watch. We got 4 teams we're going to feature for this segment of Stakeholder Market Watch. The first is Clemson. Clemson isn't ranked, but they're basically number 26. Missouri grabbed the final top 25 position with 117 voting points. Clemson received 112, so they just got pushed out. 5-point delta in the rankings, tiny margin. If you're a Clemson fan, basically consider Clemson, the 25th ranked team. However, it makes it a little bit more interesting because their first week is week 1 against LSU, who is ranked. So you basically have an unranked versus number 11 LSU. If Clemson wins that game, they're not just going to enter the top 25. They're going to plant themselves right in the middle of it. And again, it's talk about places where this top 25 group could get reshuffled. This is one of those places. Week 1, Clemson versus LSU. Put that on your calendar. You just got to watch that. And again, that's exactly the kind of situation that we like to watch on Stak3holder. The current ranking doesn't necessarily reflect the potential ranking. The key is undervalued teams compared to market sentiment. So, the forecast. Clemson is one of my strongest candidates to enter the top 25 very, very quickly, but week 1 is going to tell us a whole lot. In addition, Dabo Swinney does not mince words. He knows that for this season, it's put up or shut up for the Tigers, so look for the Tigers to come out very, very strong. Market Watch number 2. Beware. Penn State begins at number 18. In my opinion, this is the fool's buy. Here's why. It doesn't necessarily jump off my screen. I don't really think it's well-deserved. First-year head coach, half the roster is basically new. But here's what you're really looking at when you're evaluating Penn State. Look at the runway. I mean, their first 4 weeks, Marshall, Temple, Buffalo, Wisconsin. Penn State basically has an opportunity to stack 4 wins out of the gate before any of us actually knows how good they really are. That is concerning for me. I'm putting a red flag on these guys. Beware. It's a beware storyline. That brings us to Houston. If there's a team that I think everyone should take a flyer on, it's Houston. For a number of different reasons, but first and foremost on Stak3holder, the value is absolutely there. They are priced at, pulling it up right now, they are priced at 68 cents per share with an APY at 9.2%. That's annualized APY. Again, there is distinct value here. Now let's dive in and actually look at the numbers. So, Houston starts at number 23. They finished 10-3 last season, and they're now beginning the year inside the top 25. That's huge for momentum, and it's huge for team morale. So, but what really matters is their schedule. They start with Oregon State, then Southern, and then very quickly they travel to play number 12 Texas Tech. The Texas Tech game's obviously going to be a huge market-moving moment. But Houston could be sitting 2-0 with a chance to beat the number 12 team in the country. That's a statement. That is an absolute statement. Win that game and suddenly we're talking about a team moving from the 20s into the teens, lose, and they're sitting outside the top 25 with a chance to get back in later in the season. The bottom line forecast, Houston's one of the highest volatility teams in the top 25, and in the first few weeks of the season, that's why I'm putting this on the watch list. Go ahead, do yourself a favor, and take a flyer on them. Batting cleanup and rounding off our Market Watch segment is Alabama. Where's Paul Feinbaum where you need him? Okay, talking Alabama. Alabama comes in ranked at 13. We're not used to seeing Alabama begin seasons in this territory, but it kind of makes sense. Look at their first 4 games. Again, pretty good way to gauge what they're up against and, start to form a thesis here. So starting off, East Carolina, then at Kentucky. Watch out for them. Florida State, and then South Carolina. Okay, not sure if it's a slam dunk 4-0. Could see 3-1. South Carolina, I think, is a team to keep an eye on. But, however, if they look to dominate it and end up 4-0, voters aren't going to have that much trouble moving Alabama back toward the top 10 and inside that top 10. So the question isn't whether number 13 is disrespectful. It's whether or not you believe Alabama is actually the 13th best team in the country. Because if your answer is no, that's where the thesis begins. Our forecast, Alabama is one of my candidates to move into the top 10 during September. However, I would not count on them later in the year when the SEC field of teams are in peak performance. I think it's a dangerous conference, and I don't see Alabama taking that one home. Okay. Closing off, here's the big takeaway here, and this is really how I think about the AP poll from a stakeholder perspective. The rankings tell us what people believe today. The market gives you the opportunity to express what you think they're going to be tomorrow. So instead of asking who deserves to be number one, I'm asking who's mispriced relative to where they're going. Who's number 18 today that could be number 10? Who's unranked today that could end up number 15, and who's sitting near the top of the poll with nowhere to go but down. That is the interesting part of stakeholder. That is the stuff that I love about college football. And that brings me to my personal preseason watch list. So if I had to pick 4 teams today that I'm watching closely, it's going to be Clemson. It's definitely going to be Indiana. And it's going to be Houston. And I'll throw in Alabama because I'm going to kick Penn State out of my top 4. So Clemson, immediate opportunity to explode in the rankings. Indiana, defending national champion, plus Kurt Cignetti, enough said. Penn State, Houston, number 23 with a massive early opportunity against Texas Tech. That's going to be a must win for that program to really get to the next level. And then number 13, again, I just think through September, Alabama has a real shot to set the tone. However, I don't think they're going to last. I think that's going to be a shorter market play. So, again, this is our first AP Top 25 reveal. I hope you enjoyed it. Now we finally get to stop projecting and actually watch these teams play. Let us know in the comments which team is the AP sleeping on. Which team do you think is ranked way too high? We'll keep tracking these markets throughout the season as the rankings change. And until then, buy, sell, and hold your favorite teams on Stakeholder. We'll see you next time. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you. And peace out.